enjoyed this latest edition of the Cyclothon. It's been a wonderful occasion, and it's all set to culminate with the Hammer Series racing coming up very shortly. Well, that's the Cyclothon and all the activities that have gone. Well, there are the standings heading into this final event. It's not quite a slam dunk. The top 5 teams have a mathematical possibility of winning Hammer Series 2018. Really, it's between the top 2. Mitchelton Scott have it all to lose. Quick Step Floors, a win for them ahead of Mitchelton Scott. They could well pip them at the post. For BMC and the other teams, they've a little bit to do. And all of the teams will certainly have the motivation to move up the final finishing order. Well, here's the teams. We've 15 teams in total taking part in Hammer Hong Kong. We've got 11 World Tour squads, 3 Pro Continental outfits, and 1 Hong Kong selection that's been invited to sample World Tour level racing. Most of these teams, of course, peppered with riders that have taken part in this event so far, and the top 3 squads with so much to race for today. The Mitchell & Scott team, well, they really have become specialists at this event. Roger Klug, a great trackman, as indeed is multi-world champion Cam Meyer, and those 2 stars are real experts at Hammer Series racing. Luca Mezgets has a good finish on him, so too is Matteo Trentin, Sam Bewley there to do a job, and Mitchell & Scott look very strong indeed. Quick Step Floors, well, among their number, the 2012 world champion Philippe Gilbert has already been part of their lineup in the Hammer Series so far this year. Fabio Jakobsen has racked up 5 wins in his rookie pro season. Davide Martinelli of Italy, tall, rangy rider of some great ability. Narvaez Andries Devenins, the veteran, ready to back them up. For BMC, well, the great Richie Porte is in action this weekend. It's been a tough season for the much-travelled Aussie, but he's got a chance to bow out of BMC with a good result. Stefan Kung, what an engine he is, as indeed Jurgen Rollins has a fine finish, the Belgian rider. Miles Scottson and Nathan van Hooydonk have great experience of Hammer Series racing to bring to the party this afternoon. Well, the wind's starting to blow and the riders are assembling at the start line, as I mentioned. Alongside me to run the rule over the riders throughout the afternoon is Richard Pluge, who's the managing director of the Team Lotto NL Jumbo. Richard, you're very welcome. It's great to have you alongside. And I know you're a really big fan of Hammer Series racing. It's an exciting concept. Ten laps in total. We've got 3 double points bonus sprints on offer as well, and those will be targeted by the teams. They'll certainly be well aware of the importance of those. Richard, it's a wonderful new concept. I know you're a really big fan.
Yes, yeah. Well, we designed this with all the teams, and you know, we're really happy that it's so spectacular and so well received at the fans. We got to start here, I guess. Almost. But you know, the fans online are really enthusiastic about this format, and it would be good to have a climbing race here as well, but it wasn't possible in one day. But we have the chase and the sprint, and it will be spectacular today with these names in the peloton.
Well, obviously you'll be looking with great interest to see how your own squad are getting on. You've got a pretty strong team, obviously Dylan Gruneweg in the standout.
Yeah, we have Dylan, but there are also other guys, of course, like Fabio Jakobsen, like Trentin. You mentioned him already. You know, Walscheid is really strong at the moment, so there's big sprinters at the start line today.
Well, we're in the final 10-second countdown to the beginning of the Hammer Sprint. The two races this afternoon is underway, and there's a klaxon to send them practically blowing us out of the commentary position here. Riders are into action, 7 bike riders. They reduced 5 riders from their 7-rider squad each race, and obviously many of the teams have another 2 riders in reserve to swap over into the Hammer Chase later on this afternoon.
Yeah, and that's also really nice. The sports directors love this because they really have to think in a team way, and they can change the riders this afternoon when the chase is on. So, for example, our team will race with 2 other guys into to the time trial instead of this team, which you will see now. So, you know, and you can think of that, so it makes it really a tactical race, also with the climbing normally in there. So it's tactically, it's fun for the riders, and really nice to race.
Nice, pretty intense stuff, mind you. It's pretty hectic racing action. Could even be a little bit less than that on this particular course. Just under 43 kilometers of racing action. It's the same course that they use for the Hammer Chase a little later on this afternoon. Albeit the laps after this, it's just over 20 kilometers. It's a relatively short amount of racing, and the intensity is exceptional. It's a tough day out for the riders.
Yeah, but you know, it's a 10-time sprint, and that's something the riders are not really used to. So, but 10-time sprinting, also with these dead corners where you are at a standstill more or less, it will be really hard today. And you will see some teams try to get in the lead group, try to break away, and you will have the sprinter teams trying to keep all together. So the speed will be high, and yeah, it will be fun.
It will be fun. It's already fun. They're under action and underway indeed. The lead car has headed out front and has allowed the racers to engage in the racing, and interesting. We need to see the Hong Kong riders wanting to get involved in the action with the 3 dead stops at the hairpins. Do you think this is going to be a slightly different course to those that we've seen in the first 3 Hammer Series events at Limburg and Stavanger?
Yeah, I guess that makes it really hard for the riders, but also after one of these dead corners, there's a climb, there's the bridge. So you have a complete standstill, and then you have to go up, which will make it also really hard. It's this one coming up now, and they go left here and they go up the bridge, and it is not really flat. It looks like it is flat, but it is not, and especially if you have to go up 10 times. It gets steeper every lap.
So Ryan Mullen, the Irish time trial champion, former road race champion indeed, on the front, albeit briefly, took the riders through that left-hander. And as you say, this isn't quite Alpe d'Huez. It's going to feel like that after 10 times up it.
Yeah, I guess so, especially if they sprint every lap. So, you know, your legs get sore, and it will be hard and difficult.
It's all about the gear you choose and the intensity you put into it every time. Has its challenges, and it's the softening up procedure in the early stages. We're just on lap 1, but already a couple of riders. This is Nung from Hong Kong, who's just dangling on the back and probably feeling like going to put with another couple of hours warm up on the rollers. If you want to know how intense the start any of these races is, always look at the back of the race, because that's where you know how hard it is. At the front, well, they're already easing up. The next stall, followed by the next attack, and we've got Delco Marseille Provence KTM, the French registered pro-continental team, Division 2 outfit, and out to see can it impress and really show what it's made of in its debut in this event. First time that the Delco Marseille KTM squad have been involved in Hammer Series racing.
Yeah, and you will see that riders like Richie Porte here on the back as well. He will, you know, he's good at climbing long climbs and more easy starts than today. So you know, it's not really well fitted for him, this parcours, I think. But yeah, it shows that it's really hard for the rider.
It's a shock to the system, isn't it? If you're used to doing 200 kilometers or even up to 250 kilometers, it's Geraint here for Delco Marseille Provence KTM, just dangling off the front, not really establishing anything of great significance. Remember, the teams are all going to try and wind it up at the end of this lap. It's all about scoring consistently, and if a pattern has emerged, we've had 3 Hammer Series events. It's about trying to get as many riders scoring as regularly as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. You cannot play every lap the same rider because it's too hard, and especially on a course like this one, it's only 4K. So you have to sprint 10 times then with one rider. So every team will use 2 or 3 riders. So that the teams with the fastest complete squad will be the winner today. And you mentioned already, Mitchell and Scott. They are used to this work because they have a lot of track riders within their squad, and they are used to sprint a lot, but also know when to sprint because that's really important. When do you go all out, or when do you take the rest a little bit?
Well, it might be worth thinking about going all out on the 3 double point scoring laps that come during this. First of those comes at lap 3. And the early attack starting to kick off as we arrive at the finish line. Who's going to get this one? Team EF Education first of Tam McLeod among their number. Quickstep want to try racking the numbers up. UAE involved in this one as well, and we wait for confirmation. It looks like Tom van Asbroek indeed, a Dutch sprinter of some ability, who's managed to just pinch some points there. Very useful start for EF Education first.
Yeah, he's a fast guy of EF, so we expected him already. And you can see that Quickstep is also there with 2 riders already in the top 5, so that takes a lot of points. And it's like I said before, it's a tactical race. It's being there when you need to be there, and that's really important.
Yeah, EF Education first getting that one with Tom van Asbroek in fine sprint form, and clearly did a pretty good warm-up. UAE Team Emirates second across the line. Alexander Rybashenko getting second place points for UAE Team Emirates. And Quickstep Floors packing nicely there, actually third and fourth across the line with Rhys Devenins and Philippe Gilbert. That's another way to play it, isn't it? Try and get as many numbers into the top 10.
Be with as many people in the top 10 as you can. We ourselves at number 10, I believe, Janssen. There, and you should be there with a lot of riders. And play, as you said, and play your best rider at the double sprint, the best sprint.
Well, we'll give you full confirmation of the early standings as we see the next attack happening, and that's standard stuff, isn't it? You've had a sprint, everybody wants to relax, they want to try and get their breath back. There are always a few in there that have been just surfing the wheels and just think now is the time to pinch a little bit of an advantage. Peloton wise to that one, and the legs still relatively fresh.
Yeah, and I think there's also part of the tactics. If you don't have the fastest sprinters with you, you should try to be in a break with a couple of riders and try to get points at that in that way. So there's always a big fight between the sprinter teams and the teams that want to be in the breakaway.
That's definitely the way to play it. EF Education first with the early lead. They want to get involved in the next attack. Nicely timed stuff that clearly come fired up. EF Education first, sitting 12th of the 13 teams ranked in Hammer Series racing. So they're, I think, out to show that the various trials and difficulties that they've endured through the first 2 events this year, really not a real indication of their ability. So EF Education first going to try and put that right. This is all about trying to get the best starting position in the Hammer Chase, which happens later on this afternoon. 2 events in the one day. It's all compacted into one day of racing. And will that change the tactics and the thinking of the team directors?
No, not so much, because it's a short race. This is a 1-hour race, and the team time trial is a real team time trial with 20K. So that's really hard for the riders. But still, you can do this in one day, and the riders are used to long hours in the saddle. And now this is interesting. You see a big group leaving the peloton, so there's work to do for the sprinter teams to get it all back together.
Yeah, 3 teams in there, and riding along the back, riders who are probably feeling a little bit concerned about things. John Dibben of Team Sky, sitting at the back in the early stages, a pretty strong time trialist, and he'll certainly be a bundle of watts that Team Sky will be calling on later on this afternoon. John Dibben in the early stages, not too interested in getting involved. Simon Geschke as well, just sitting in front of him, is not the sort of rider that perhaps enjoys this kind of racing, or maybe he's just playing himself into it. The German climbing domestique is he's a star. He's the sort of rider who likes to get in the breakaway as well. Maybe he's just playing it cagey for a little bit later on.
I guess so. Because he's a fast guy as well. He can be fast in the sprint. So especially when it's hard, and it will be hard today. So also the heat here. It's warm. It's humid.
Yeah.
So it will wear them out, even though it's only one hour. But yeah, like Simon Geschke is someone who can do it then.
Yeah, the temperature relatively benign, 22 to 24 degrees centigrade, but you add to that the heavy humidity, and it really is saturating day. And this little group up front, looks like Eddie Dunbar, I think, has just managed to infiltrate this one. The Irish Dynamo, he's a little pocket rocket. He's done very well in Tour de l'Avenir. He's just been picked up by Team Sky after the collapse of his Aqua Blue Sports squad. He's managed to infiltrate this one. He's really emptying himself. He's keen, he's motivated.
Yeah, but there's no collaboration within the group. You see that the BMC guy wants to have sprints, wants to have a closed peloton, and so we didn't want to move forward.
So Eddie Dunbar, not really a big sprint sensation. That's not how you describe him, although he does go well from a small group, but he's more interested, I think, in the climbs. He's had some great performances in Volta Lindbergh this year, and also, as I say, some top results in the Tour de l'Avenir, some top stage results, and he's going to take the top points on offer at the second time of asking as the riders flash across the line to complete lap 2. It's worth persevering. Going to pick up the top points. Team Sky have scored well there.
It's Walscheid, and it's I guess Gilbert is there in the mix.
Yeah, Kluge in there as well.
Yeah.
Wayne Dool packing well for the Team Sky lineup, so they managed to put 2 riders into the top 10. It's moved them up overall into 3rd position. Quick Step once more keep that scoreboard ticking over, and they've now gone into the lead ahead of EF Education First.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, it's a team effort today, and this team really wants to win the Hammer Series over Mitchelton Scott, so they have some work to do. And I'm sure that their tactics and their plan is based on winning this and trying to wreck Mitchelton Scott, and that's nice to see, because it's everybody's fighting for the squad, for the team, and that's also something what is the idea behind the Hammer Series, to have a real team effort. You know, it's not one rider winning it, but it's the team winning in the end of the day.
Well, cycling is a team sport, and I suppose an element of the sport that really reflects the team ethos is something that's been welcomed by the squads.
Exactly, and that's normally in other races. You know, there's one rider winning with the help of his teammates. And in the Hammer Series, you can really see that it's a team effort, because everybody is winning of the team. And that's what we wanted to show, indeed, because it's not obvious for many people that in other races it's also a team effort. Nobody can win a race without the help of his teammates.
Time for Quick Step to go on the attack. They're already leading this one. They've got a handy points total now, 15-point lead over EF Education First. Team Sky have moved up into 3rd. Team Sunweb sitting 4th, and Mitchell and Scott, the overall leaders of this race series, currently sitting back in 5th place, and that's a dangerous place to be, because they'd be starting 5th in the Hammer Chase later on this afternoon. 4 spots behind Quick Step Floors, were that to be the case, and a great opportunity. If Quick Step win and Mitchell and Scott are second at the end of the day, then Quick Step will be the champions. So this is a dangerous moment. It's a bit like is it Narvaez that's gone and has chanced his arm. Yeah, Jonathan Narvaez has just pinched a few meters advantage, and Manuel Jumbo want to try and cover that one. Mitchell and Scott starting to show towards the front.
Yeah, they need to, because now the 3rd sprint is coming up. So there's a lot of points. Yeah, there's a lot of points coming up. So
double points on offer for lap 3. Narvaez has found himself grinding his way up this climb, which feels like a mountain, and he's replaced at the front as Team Sky go on the attack. And Team Sky clearly mean business as well, currently sitting back in 6th place. They're out of mathematical contention for overall honours, but again, Team Sky want to try and put their best foot forward, give themselves the best starting position for the Hammer Chase this afternoon.
Yeah, and you know they try to avoid this this sprint, and now they understand that you have to be already in the front here, before the other 180 degrees corner coming up, because then you have this climb again, and they know that you should be in the front of the peloton there.
Double points coming up. 6th lap round, we've double points, and then on the line at the conclusion of the 10th and final lap, we've got another helping of double points that could well serve to change things, change the character, but as it currently stands, a narrow advantage of just 15 points for the Quick-Step Floor squad over EF Education First. Both those teams have been very much in evidence. Team Sky sitting third and on the attack. Sunweb in fourth at the moment. Mitchell and Scott back in fifth. UAE, Israel Cycling Academy, Bora Hansgrohe have scored. Lotto, Soudal and Trek Segafredo as well. And Team Lotto and El Jumbo sitting in 11th place at the moment. And it's 11 of the 15 teams that have managed to score.
Yeah, we have to score. We have to be really. Now we have to be there as a team. Lotto Jumbo, because it's a lot of points getting there.
Well, double points could make a big difference as the Lotto Soudal squad from Belgium want to try and get on the attack.
Adam Hansen.
Looks a bit like Adam Hansen, doesn't it? The veteran Aussie. Extraordinary record of 20
who lives there in Hong Kong, so he knows the way.
Yeah, these are familiar roads, maybe his training roads.
Yeah, well, it's pretty difficult to train here, I guess, in the normal. Today it's all, the roads are all open. But normally it's really busy, of course, with traffic.
Indeed, yeah, there wouldn't be too much. Mind you, if it was safe, a bike would be the way to go, wouldn't it? Because traffic certainly can be a little bit hectic in this part of the world. Back at the peloton, well, the pace is a bit hectic. And Simon Geschke is continuing his policy. Well, Hansen's got to take this one. Lotto Soudal look to try and get on the board and move up the board. Currently sitting in 9th place, top all of points. Behind Quick-Step, working the scoreboard well. And to the line, he's going to be swamped after it, but just in time. And it's Bora Hansgrohe that takes second, helping of points, courtesy of Pasca. But look at that. Jakobsen, Gilbert and Martinelli. That's better than being first, third, fourth and fifth across the line. Quick-Step have come here to race.
Yeah, and Trenton is the only one of Mitchelton Scott, so that's really interesting what's happening here. You can see it here. Mitchelton Scott has really come out.
Worrying moments. Quick-Step extend their advantage at the front, extend it significantly. They've now got a 114-point lead over Lotto Soudal, who've bolted from 9th up into 2nd position. Bora Hansgrohe as well are moving up the order into 3rd. EF Education First. Great start to this hammer sprint for them, but they're starting to move back a little bit and have dropped down to 4th. Mitchell and Scott maintaining position. Well, I think they may well have dropped back into 6th place. We'll wait for full update on the computer screen. We're just winding it up here to see if it gives us a reset, but well, no doubt about it.
Yep.
They're jumping away from the Quick-Step Floor squad.
Yeah, and I think it was an attack of Tom Dumoulin, I believe, who is here now together with, I don't know.
Trek Segafredo on the attack for the looks of things. Yeah. And Tom Dumoulin, the great Tom Dumoulin, the Giro d'Italia winner. Twice a runner-up in Grand Tours this year. He's got a string of wonderful successes.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure it is Dumoulin. Doesn't look like his characteristic time trial shape on the bike, but Team Sunweb and indeed the Trek Segafredo squad want to try and get up the road. Team Sky as well. Eddie Dunbar is trying to skip over to that one as well. It might make 3 interesting teams up front. Usual patterns don't apply. If you've got 5 or 6 teams in there, it doesn't always follow that they're happy to let that one go.
Yeah, exactly. But these are the teams without the big sprint names today, so that's why they try to go out.
Nice time to go, isn't it? Just after the attack was Team Sunweb taking their leave of the peloton. Trek Segafredo as well. It's a little bit like Julien Bernard, perhaps, that has just gone in this one, and Eddie Dunbar comes to a dead stop almost and hasn't quite made it across. He likes the hills. Is this hill long enough for him to make the junction?
I hope so for him.
Well, the EF Education First monitoring things on the front of the peloton, but not willing to commit to the chase as yet, so this could be a nicely timed move, and that's something we've seen.
Yeah, I think this is really a moment which can be decisive, because the three, nobody really looks like we're gonna chase them down and get them back. So yeah, the three can take a lot of points if they stay together.
Well, Simon Geschke's punching tickets at the back of the peloton. He's perfectly satisfied. He's not that satisfied, actually. A couple of bike lengths between himself and.
I think it's a hard time for him today.
Yeah, it can be just so difficult to get into the rhythm of the racing. It's absolutely flat chat, and these riders, I mean, it's something they will have experienced in their career, but not for a long while. If you're coming in,
they did it when they were young. When you start as a cyclist, you always have these criteriums, and then you race a lot like this. But after that, it's not happening so much, so often. So yeah, it's really difficult for them to adapt to this way of racing.
Well, Sunweb sit on the front of the peloton, but they're not willing to chase this one down at the moment because they've got a rider up front. Eddie Dunbar hasn't made it, so it's a worrying moment. Sitting in no man's land, he'll at least hope to survive through to the end of the lap and score some points.
I think it's Kragh Andersen. And the one of Trek.
Well, we're going to find out very shortly, because looking good for them to score points. And perhaps too as well, Eddie Dunbar can add to his total and indeed his team's total with a third place finish. But I'm not sure he's going to make it, because the peloton about to swarm and swamp the young Irish climbing.
Smart move of Sunweb to be in the front in this corner, because you can brake a little in this corner, so everybody is braking, and you have to get your speed again, and the breakaway has more time to open up the gap even further. So that was really smart of them.
Yeah, if you're first on the pedals, you can just soft pedal a little bit off the corner, but not too much. And Eddie Dunbar is considering the error of his ways there a little bit. Quick step go on the attack. They're going to cover that one. No blue jerseys will be allowed away too easily.
Together with Janssen, but now Sunweb is chasing this down.
Well, they need to cover this one, because Quick Step, Lotto NL Jumbo on the chase, trying to cover it. Nippo Vini Fantini and Lotto NL Jumbo. Groenewegen perhaps is Paulus, who's decided to mark this move, and a few little cracks starting to develop. The riders are feeling the pinch a little bit, I feel. Grosu, the Romanian champion, is another one of the Nippo Vini Fantinis that have clearly spotted this as the lap to go on the attack.
Yeah.
So the riders coming up to the line. Here's the two up front. Team Sunweb scoring well with Trek Segafredo, Søren Kragh, and Brambilla was for the Trek Segafredo squad, with Quick Step, well, adding to the total. Nicely timed. Dries Devenins, he's got the hang of this. He's a debutant in this type of racing, but Emil Grant Janssen and Dylan Groenewegen makes it two riders for Team Lotto NL Jumbo in the top six.
Yeah. So, and then you see them moving up like Sunweb, moving up quickly, suddenly.
It's all about packing at the front. That's what it's all about. Søren Kragh Andersen with a great haul of points there, and himself and Gianluca Brambilla still clear of the field. They'll persevere with this one. They're not going to throttle back too soon.
No, and I think for Mitchelton Scott it will be really necessary to get a little bit closer, because it also affects the starting time this afternoon in the chase.
Yeah, 20 seconds between each of the teams. Slightly different way of separating the teams in the Hammer Chase in this particular event, because it's all compacted into one day. The decision was made that they would divide the teams with just 20 seconds between them, each and every one of them. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but suffice it to say, I'm going to put as few numbers of 20 seconds between yourself and the leading team in order to give yourself a good chance. Well, Andersen and Brambilla have decided, I think that's quite enough of that.
Yeah. They feel the wind is also blowing, and nobody sees that, but there's a lot of wind here also along the coast. And yeah, these corners, it kills you. It kills you together with the heat, the wind, and every time pulling up to again a high speed. It's really it's an interval training for 1 hour, and that's really hard. Yeah,
you just can't do it again and again. It wasn't voluntary, that. They didn't just decide, I don't want to be out front anymore. I mean, it was their lungs and their hearts said enough, and still a useful exercise because they've scored top points. Last lap round. Now, is this Kluge perhaps? It certainly looks like Mitchell and Scott have gone on the attack. The big German track specialist. Yeah, they need to try and do something about shaking this up because Mitchell and Scott have slipped to 8th in the standings. Crisis moment for them.
Yeah, and that's what I said. They need to go up because we also race with the chase in two shifts, so they have to be in the first shift or the second shift, the first group of teams.
Oh, this looks good for Roger Kluge, and he's a man you don't want to let out of your sight. He is the reigning Madison World Champion. He is former Olympic medalist on the track as well, a world champion in various different disciplines on the track. He's a rider who loves this style of racing. We always compare it to the track. It's just the sheer repetition of sprint efforts.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also a good time trialist. I believe he won the Bing Bang Tour 2 years ago or a NECO Tour, the time trial then. So it's a time trialist as well. So he can ride for his own, and he can ride alone really good. So it's a dangerous break.
Yeah, he's a big motor to have later on in the Hammer Chase. He's a big motor out front at the moment. The back of the peloton with Simon Geschke getting plenty of airtime. And so too is Fung from
together
the
with his Hong Kong,
yeah, he knows all those guys.
Fellows, yeah. No, but the pace is high, and everybody wants to close this gap. At least the Quick Step is wanting to close it. Lotto Jumbo wants to close it. So, the pace will be high, and it's a hard race.
And at the end of this season, I mean, it's how the legs respond. A lot of riders are absolutely shattered. They have a stage race to come after this in China, but for many of them, this really is the final knockings of a long season.
Yeah, it's more or less half of the peloton is really finished with the season. They feel like, oh my God, I have to go to China, and the other half of the peloton is still eager to win something over there. So there's a mixture of it, but it's obviously not as in January and February that everybody is as eager and fresh to go for it.
Well, a few counter-attackers fancy their chances of skipping off the front. Could be good news, as Julius Vandenberg from EF Education First is among those riders that take their leave of the peloton just in time for that dead stop at the back end of the circuit.
Yeah, it's incredible that in a busy city as Hong Kong we can do this type of racing, because it's a nice parcours. Though normally it's really packed with traffic here.
And interesting way to play it, isn't it? Van Asbroek out front with his teammate Julius Vandenberg.
Oh, and the cameraman is a little bit lost.
Well, he's still on the bike.
That's the most important. Yeah.
No one in the drink just yet. The 2FE Education First out front, and they're sandwiching single competitor from
UAE.
Yeah, from the UAE squad. This looks like Rabashenko, who's already scored indeed at the first sprint, as indeed did Tom Van Asbroek, who's on the front here. Van Asbroek, the sprint winner at the first sprint, first time of asking. So far we're at the halfway point, coming up to conclude lap 5. More points on offer, and this would springboard EF Education First back into contention if they hang out on front. And they're chasing this man, Kluge.
Yeah, it's impossible, huh? He's really strong, and he will get all the points.
So top points that time of asking, as the counter-attackers are swarmed by a couple of riders who just leap out of the peloton.
Ackermann.
Yes, Pascal Ackermann and Bora Hansgrohe, the easily recognizable colours of the national champion of Germany. Narve is scoring well as well. Vandenberg hung on for 4th, great job from him. Rabashenko, Matteo Trentin, Luka Mezget scoring well. Philippe Gilbert adding 8th place points. That could be useful to stem the tide, because Mitchell and Scott put a couple of riders into the scoring there.
Yeah, and they got the message that there was the alarm bell rang for them in the previous lap. So they got the message and got a lot of points now.
Well, it's a good response from Mitchell and Scott. They haven't got really any closer on points to the Quick Step squad, but they have moved up the order. They're now up into 4th place, and that's as high as they've been in this Hammer sprint.
Yeah, they should be top 8 in the end of this of the sprint stage.
Let's run through the points. We're at the halfway point. We've had 5 sprints, 5 to go. Next time of asking, we've got double points on offer. And the Quick Step Floors squad have an absolutely massive lead. It's not an unassailable one though, but it's 238 points to the good out of Bora Hansgrohe, scored well last time out. Team Sunweb sitting in third at the moment. Mitchell and Scott have moved up into fourth. That's useful for them. Lotto Sudal, EF Education first, back up to sixth. Lotto NL Jumbo, Trek Segafredo. All but 3 of the teams have scored. 12th place is Delco Marseille Provence. Nippo Vinifantini BMC Racing Team, somewhat surprisingly, and the Hong Kong squad have yet to trouble the scores.
Yep. And you saw how difficult it was. Tom van Asbroek did a really good job for Julius van den Berg, but he was not even in the top 10 in the end. He did a good lead out for him, but there you can see how hard it is to stay up front, because many riders come from the back with the speed from the peloton, and they overtake you.
Well, Trek Segafredo are positioned 8th at the moment, so they are in the finalist group that will be racing the second group out in the Hammer Chase as things currently stand, but plenty of time for significant changes in the standing. This goes to the Romanian National Road Race Champion at the very back of the group at the moment. He was on the attack, it only seems like moments ago. Things change fast in Hammer Sprint Racing. Lotto Sudal want to cover this one. They're sitting 5th as it currently stands, just behind Mitchell and Scott and just ahead of EF Education first. Only the top 8 teams, remember, are in with a shout of winning this event, winning the Hammer Hong Kong, because they'll go through to the finalist group this afternoon. And so it's absolutely critical that if nothing else, you make sure you're in the top 8.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what where the tactics should be pointing to, that you are top 8 in the end of this race.
It's a minimum. BMC have yet to score. Remarkable stuff. They're sitting right at the bottom of the standings. I'm not sure if that was Stefan Kung, who may well have been just trying his luck off the front, but they need a big engine like him. He's a time trial superstar from Switzerland. The Tour de Suisse stage winner in the time trial this year. Spent several days in the yellow jersey at his home tour. And Stefan Kung is an established rider and indeed an emerging talent at one and the same time for the BMC team, and they need to start rattling the scoreboard a bit.
Yeah, you can see that, you know, like Kluge did before. That's the chance for teams without big sprint names. Just try to stay out of the hands of the peloton, and Kung is someone who really can do that, of course, like Kluge.
Well, is there something of a stall? The closest thing to a stall we've seen so far in the peloton, and that could be good news for a couple of riders who are just going to try and skip away and surprise everyone. Team Sky, time for them to score again.
And Geschke was there as well. We saw him in the back, but I told you before, he will come in the end of the race, and there he is. He tries to be in the breakaway.
He did his warm-up in the first 5 laps, didn't he? And satisfied with that, he's decided to have a little sniff at the front of the peloton, and likes what he sees. And as you said, he's got a really terrific turn of pace. Not just a climber by any means. He can sprint from a smaller group, has done to great effect in the past. 1 or 2 riders starting to drop off the pace. One of the local riders.
Guys,
yeah, no surprise he's feeling the pinch a little bit. You must indeed, any riders that are lapped will be out of the race inevitably, and of course if they've scored points, those points won't count, so it is absolutely critical that you finish the event.
Yeah, that's logical. You can score a lot of points and drop out. You know, then you can give it all in the first couple of laps, so it's normal that you will lose them if you don't finish the race.
So up front, more riders starting to take their lead from the peloton, so that little speculative attack from Team Sky not quite working out on this occasion, but
Mitchell and Scott again.
I think it is time for them to try and do something special. They're leaving it for the second half of the race. Is this Cam Meyer, 9 times a world champion on the track as an elite. Indeed, he's a reigning points race world champion, and going to the line, Team Sunweb want to try and score the top points. Gets the and it's a nice 1-3 finish by the looks of things there for the Mitchell and Scott. Mezgets is starting to show what he's capable of. Sivakov getting up for second for Team Sky. He was the rider who was up front. Sivakov has gone well in Hammer Climb in the past, but Hammer Sprint, well, he's showing well for Team Sky. They move up to 6th. Meanwhile, Mitchell and Scott have moved up, but double points on offer, of course, and we have to take credence and take notice of that. That was double points as it really moved Mitchell and Scott up into the lead of this competition. They're timing it nicely.
Yeah, they really thought of this. But you see a lot of breaks in the peloton. It's all shattered now all over the parcours.
Well, for a moment, it was impossible to take in the fact that Mitchell and Scott have scored such a haul of points. That they really double the amount of points of Team Sunweb at the moment. It's remarkable stuff. And in a trice, almost in a moment, Quickstep have gone from being the dominant performers in this back into 3rd place.
Yeah, that's really nice. That can happen in this race. You can score a lot of points per lap. So it's nice to see this happening because it makes it exciting and. Yeah, you never know who's going to win it.
You never know.
But it's also really interesting to see that now there's a break in the peloton. Apparently the wind and the climbing is too hard for many riders.
Yeah, a lot of riders really feeling the pinch. Will they persevere with this one? Is this looks like Gilbert, I think, on the front?
Yeah, with Geschke is there, and I think Gijs van Hoeken.
And they'll be getting a rocket, won't they? They'll be told exactly what's just happened to them, and Quickstep need an instant response.
Yeah. Now the alarm bell is there for them. It was first for Mitchelton Scott, and now it's there for Quickstep. Guys, wake up!
Wow,
you have to be there.
Mitchell and Scott indeed really know how to play Hammer Series racing, and the sprint is down to the final 15 and a bit kilometers as BMC go to the front. Need to start showing something. BMC still yet to score. Only 2 teams have yet to score, BMC Racing Team and the Hong Kong national team. Remarkable statistic that is.
Yeah.
Matteo Trentin showing off the colours of the European road race champion to a glorious success in front of a couple of cyclo-cross superstars in Glasgow just a couple of months ago, and he's enjoying those colours. With Mitchell and Scott these days, of course, his Quick-Step rivals were his teammates for so many years. And now the Italian rider who's likes to go out front. I'll tell you what, that's a big bunch. A lot of scoring riders in there, and they don't look too enthusiastic about closing this one.
No, but Sepp Kuss here is trying to close it for the 2 riders of us. Dylan Groenewegen is here, going through the corner.
Well,
it's difficult.
Those riders will have scored points and indeed would like to maybe make a further contribution.
Yep.
So, but they need to have a little bit of a think about this. I mean, is there going to be any throttling back? Will you see a lack of cooperation from any riders in that lead group because there's so many behind?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody is just racing to stay away and try to score points because it's a small group, so everybody has a chance to get some points, even though it's not the lead group and not your lead sprinter.
Well, they're not exactly crawling along.
No. It's that shows that it's really fast racing here.
Yeah, pace well over 45 kilometers an hour at the moment. Absolutely tipping along. Inside 15 kilometers remaining, and riders in this group have a little bit of work to do. David Lopez, the veteran from Team Sky, is loitering towards the back. So to Timo Rosen. We won't call him out on telly. Not the man alongside.
Rosen, yeah, it's good.
He's in there for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. A little bit of work to do as they go through the tunnel one more time. 2 tunnels on this course, but not particularly long, and no real visibility issues for the riders in the tunnel, so no question they need to take lights on their bike. Simon Geschke, the familiar figure of the Team Sunweb rider, the bearded rider, so that group has disintegrated a little. Look at this, it's absolutely massive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a big gap still.
This is a surprise to see so many riders of such caliber and ability. It's just shattered into 2 almost even pieces.
Yeah, I think there must have been something happened because otherwise I cannot understand that there's such a big gap. But maybe it's just,
someone let the wheel go.
Yeah.
Who's not going to get extra dessert tonight?
Yeah, you saw the 2 guys of Quickstep. I think they had a crash because they had a lap. You get a lap if you have a flat tire. So and you saw the two guys of Quickstep coming back to the first group. And I think they waited for the first group after something happened in the lap before.
Okay, so could well have been that a couple of riders have been on the deck. We'll wait for the interviews after the race to find out exactly who's been inconvenienced by that one. But, well, some work to be done. Quick Step have riders in abundance towards the front, and they want to try and maintain that position. Clearly satisfied with the composition of this group, so they're going to go on the attack, but they're not going to be allowed any advantage too easily. And Gilbert wants to get back up front and start to score. Philippe Gilbert, the 2012 world champion, is going to score top points across the line at the 7th time of asking. Well, I say he is. We've got a little bit of work to do just to confirm it. Indeed, is he going to hang on? Well, that was close, wasn't it?
True.
But good news for Quick Step.
I guess.
Now Stefan
no,
Kung.
it's Gilbert. Yeah.
Stefan Kung puts BMC on the board. That's good news for them. Sepp Van Mark showing in 3rd place, the classic superstar. Martinelli makes it 2 Quick Steps in the top 4, and no Mitchell and Scott's in there at all. So their lead has been paired. Quick Step now up into 2nd place. What a great scrap we've got at the top of the standings. These are the first 2 squads in the overall standings. Remember, they're now sitting 1st and 2nd in the Hammer Sprint at Hammer Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's really nice to see. Now Quick Step is pushing Mitchell and Scott again to do something, because they want obviously to be the #1 at the end of this race and at the end of the day. But yeah, they have to wake up.
Well, speaking of waking up, that group behind are quite a way in arrears at this moment, are they? They're kind of slipping out of contention. We'll focus on the lead group and remind you that the lead now held by Mitchell and Scott. It's a 252-point advantage. Sounds like a lot. There's 100 on offer each lap around. Remember, 200 for the first rider over the line at the final lap.
And Koen goes again for his time trial, short time trial.
That's what he does.
Yeah, hopefully to get some points.
Yeah, he's a big motor, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think, what's his name? Ryan Mullen is closing in with him.
Yeah, he's another tester. He'll certainly know all about the watts that Stefan Kung can put out. Indeed, he himself, former under-23 silver medalist in the time trial, at European Elite Championship medalist as well. His riders feeling the pinch a little bit, and that's Matteo Bono, the Italian veteran with the UAE squad, who's not going to make it over here. Well, the power will ratchet up as they come through that corner. Flashes up north of 700 watts. Mullen, who makes a remarkable hole in the air, doesn't he? He really gets the head low. Kung just sitting behind him.
Yeah, Meyer.
Meyer, yeah, indeed. Cam Meyer has got into this one, as indeed a nip of Vanni Fantini, and there's no way this anything's getting up the road without a Quick Step in there. It's Fabio Jakobsen, the breakout sprint sensation from the Netherlands this year, who's also managed to tag onto this one.
Yeah, and it's not his normal way of doing it, because he's so fast, so he can always wait for the sprint. But this is really, really strong that he's over there. Yeah,
5 wins this year. A bit of excitement about this young man.
Yeah, but it's a big talent. He's from Holland, and everybody knew this already for quite some time, that he is really fast, really fast. But that he already showed it this year in his first year as a pro, it's incredible.
Yeah, and a team like Quick Step, where actually getting on the start sheet is an achievement with the sort of quality that they have in abundance. Yeah, 71 wins so far this year, a mere 71 wins for Quick Step. Can they make it 72? They've got work to do, but they're sitting in a handy 2nd position. They packed well last time round. Cam Myers managed to tag on this one. Jakobsen's there as well. Just sense that the composition not quite. Perhaps the Quick Step squad and the Mitchell and Scott squad looking at each other a bit too much.
Yeah, and Sunweb is here. Tom Dumoulin closed the gap, so they are now a little bit helpful to Mitchell and Scott, I guess.
Well, Tom Dumoulin.
Yes, they will look at each other indeed.
Yeah, Tom Dumoulin, of course, christened this event, didn't he? Last year, he was still celebrating his glorious success in the Giro d'Italia, but he came to the inaugural Hammer Series event at indeed his Tom Dumoulin bike park and around Ciudad Gelén, and he really honoured the event with a great performance in the Hammer climb, scoring great points for Team Sunweb. Now no climbing on offer for him, but he's willing to close a gap or two, put something back for the team, and trying to make sure that Team Sunweb have an opportunity to move up from the 3rd place they currently sit in, just while they're 387 points behind the lead.
Yeah, they have still chances. Huh? There were 3 over there, and Geschke is there now still. So I guess then they can score some points.
They certainly can. Quick-Step Floor sitting in the lead. Mitchell and Scott second. Team Sunweb in third. It's yo-yoing and swapping between the top 2 down the back. Well, they're having to work hard just to hang on. Owain Doull is a fine track rider. You would imagine that this type of racing would be right up his street. But of course, riders who've been road racing for many years, if they haven't been on the track on a regular basis or doing this style of racing, it can be a real shock to the system.
Exactly, it's a specialism, and you really should adapt to this way of racing. And it will come, you know, you see the same riders coming up in Stavanger and in Sittard and now here. It's always the same. Dries Devenijns was there in Stavanger as well. He was really strong there, and it's typically you have to get used to it and understand what's happening, understand when you have to go and when you can wait a little bit.
Nicely timed, isn't it? Dries Devenijns,
yep.
35 years young and still loving his bike racing. And across the line to score the top haul of points inside the final 100 meters for the Belgian veteran. And Devenijns is going to score 100 for the Quick-Step squad. Can they put more riders in there to extend their advantage? Bora Hansgrohe get up there to score well. Trenton has added second place points though for the Mitchell and Scott squad, or third place indeed. We're showing Baska as having won that one, but we're sure it's Devenijns that got the 100, so that's surely going to be corrected. So we'll wait on that one a little bit. Devenijns certainly first across the line. Baska second for Bora Hansgrohe, and it was Mitchell and Scott with Matt Dale Trentin third across the line on that occasion. So we could well have a correction on that scoring.
Yeah, that should happen.
Yeah, Quick-Step I suspect, actually extended their advantage rather than having it paired as it's showing at the moment. Panic moment. So Owain Doull is on the back of this group for Team Sky, and it's a much pared down lead group. A lot of riders off the back are now going to play any further part in the scoring, but a lot of scoring riders are in that second group on the road. They're going to have to keep riding in order to make it.
They have to finish the race, otherwise they lose the points. So they have to keep going, but there's no chance of closing the gap with the first peloton. That is way too far away now.
We're on the 9th and penultimate lap of 4.25 kilometers here in Hong Kong as we race up and down the Salisbury Road. And those 3 dead stops at the hairpins are really starting to take their toll. Riders just
there's Dumoulin going.
Enough, has he decided that it's
with
an opportunity? Well,
better go with him.
A couple of superstar time trialists, world time trial champion of 2017, Tom Dumoulin, indeed the silver medalist just a couple of weeks ago, and he is an absolute ace against the watch. He's an ace when he gets out racing solo. Another rider who knows exactly how good he is, Stefan Kung's pretty good himself, and he wasn't going to allow that one to happen.
No, obviously not. And the 2 of them together is also not an option for the other teams, because the 2 of them together you will never see back again. So that's why Lotto Soudal closed it also.
Well, you've got an interesting dynamic here, haven't you? The group is not quite as big as it was. Riders are starting to get just a little bit tired now. It's still relatively short. Just as I say it, there's inevitably an attack, but you sense there was just a little bit of a stall for the first time in this race.
Yeah, but there's always someone who is still, a little bit rested, still fresh, and who's going to try. I think it's Marco Canola who's there, and he was trying, but look at that.
Yeah, Canola has got a bit of an advantage for Nippo Vini Fantini. The Pro Continental outfit have always come and given their A game to this. They've got a couple of riders in here. Marangoni, I think, has also made the selection. Well, they're saying it's actually Marangoni. I'm not 100% sure about that. But it's certainly Nippo Vini Fantini that have a narrow margin, but well, that one is covered with their relative ease by the Lotto Soudal, by Team Sunweb, Lotto NL Jumbo as well in there, and they make it across and they wait for others to make the junction, and that is one more time up that climb is left to do.
No, but you see all the small cracks in this group also. This climb is killing you every lap. So you see everybody now on top, a little bit like getting some air, yeah, it's really killing them today.
You figure, you sense that the right move now really could crack them, but of course riders are thinking not so much about this lap, the finish line at this lap, but the lap to come.
Yeah, when it's double points again. So
the double points are everything. They can make an absolutely massive difference to the total. As it currently stands, it's Quick Step Floors. They have adjusted the numbers a little bit. They're sitting on the top of the standings. 225 points is their advantage. Remember, 100 points at the finish line on every one of the laps, with apart from those double points laps that are coming just over a lap from now. We've still got another haul of points, regular points if you want to call them that, to be awarded very shortly, and then we'll head out on the final lap. So it's all to play for still, with the top two teams, the teams most motivated for Hammer Series racing. Quick Step Floors and Mitchell & Scott sitting on top of the standings. Bora Hansgrohe sitting in a fine third place at the moment. Team Sunweb have rattled the points table pretty convincingly so far this afternoon. They're sitting in fourth, Lotto Soudal fifth, Team Sky in sixth, Lotto NL Jumbo in seventh, Trek Segafredo, UAE Team Emirates and EF Education first. That's your top 10 heading into the penultimate sprint of the day.
yeah, and you see Tom Dumoulin pacing the group, and it's really difficult to break away at that moment if he's putting on the hammer on the peloton.
Well,
Look, he's keeping everything together now.
And is that the right tactic? Is that a smart tactic?
I think with Geschke still there, and I don't know who the other guy is of them. It's a smart move, yeah.
Yeah, that Max Falscheid scoring well early on, but I'm not sure if he's that's a pretty big hole in the air by comparison with some of the other riders as they prepare the bell for the leaders up front. Quick Step want to go racing, want to get this sprint wound up early.
Gilbert again, now it's Dumoulin himself.
Well, it's Philippe Gilbert who's going to take the penultimate top haul of points, and Dumoulin just rolls off the front. He's not going to be able to hang on, I think, for second place. I'm not even sure that Gilbert's going to make it. Well, did he? It was certainly a top haul for the Quick Step squad. Brambilla gets up. Trent and Meyer, I think we're missing a rider in there, but a couple of riders from Mitchell & Scott scoring well, but certainly two riders for Team Quick Step in there. So looking good for Team Quick Step with one sprint to happen.
And then it's double time, so everybody should be there then.
Well, an extension of their lead. Quick Step absolutely flying, putting two riders onto the front into that sprint. Still attaching importance to that one. It's about consistency in the sprint. It's about being able to physically have the motivation to do it again and again and again.
And you can see that this group is also getting smaller. Other riders are also dropped. So it's been a hard race until now already.
Yeah, so one Quick Step rider just absolutely emptying himself, just trying to ride back into the group to see if he can make some contribution on this final lap. Now we're going to see a bit of a stall while everybody thinks about it. Or are we going to see those that haven't really got a big sprint, just see if they can steal a little bit of a mark. Bora Hansgrohe sitting handily placed at the moment, third in the standings. Look at the way it's splitting.
Yeah. It's incredible. Everything is shadowed over the parkour now. It's people were saying it's a flat parkour. Well, it is not, obviously. Otherwise, it would not be so many groups and so many riders dropped at this moment.
Well, Simon Geschke just monitoring things on the front. One or two riders trying to clip over to this one, led by Matteo Trentin of Mitchell & Scott, European Road Race champion in this slightly less familiar white jersey with the blue colours. Just picked it up recently, but he's done a good job just to make this group. Lotto Soudal want to try and improve upon their current position because they're sitting in fifth place, just behind Team Sunweb, just ahead of Team Sky.
Yeah, they need some points, huh?
Geschke on the front.
And Mitchelton Scott is not there, so it's okay for Quick Step to leave them.
Well, Trentin, I think, just clipped on the back. Yeah. Adam Hansen just sitting in second place at the moment.
He should not wear the European Championship shirt.
Yeah, it takes a while to get the hang of it, doesn't it? Yeah, that was Christoph. He owned that one for a while. And Sagan for a while before that, not that he had it. And those riders, I think, now the game is up. They just haven't quite got it. And they all look around as if to say, oh, no, I don't think we're going to be able to get back in there. But says that Kuss is not willing to. Perhaps Rosen.
You have to go there.
Yeah.
You have to get up to this group. It's all the points are gone, I guess.
Well, half the top points gone. Yeah. Geschke has decided to take his leave. Doesn't really fancy his chances of going toe-to-toe with these sprinters, but he's decided to keep the tempo high, and I think that's perhaps because, well, he can score for his team, and so too looks like Valscheid has tagged on the back of this group, and he is an absolutely fearsome sprinter when he gets going.
Yeah, it's a nice group for Sunweb, and they played it pretty well by waiting long. And now you see in the end it will happen. They will take a lot of points if they can stay away, of course.
Well, I think it is Valscheid, and he got on the blower just to, I suspect, to encourage Geschke to keep the tempo high and don't let anyone else get back in here.
Yeah, and here it's breaking. It's Tom Dumoulin in the front, just keeping us not too high pace to let the group go right away.
Martinelli and Gilbert will not be able to contribute points to their teams, the Quick Step squads total. The Mitchell & Scott team have only put one rider up here, so that for them is really game over, isn't it? As far as
I guess
concerned.
so. And here's Gijs van Hoeken trying to get to the break.
Well, he's going to make it, I think, because it looks like it's a bit of a stall at the front.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to commit.
This is really smart again, Quick Step and Sunweb. They just go really slow through this corner and give the lead group the room to go even further away.
Well, the gap at the front is fully 298 points, so it's a pretty significant gap, and I think we can say it's more or less a done deal because there's just, as far as we can make out, one Mitchelton Scott rider in that group going to the final sprint of the day. Are we going to see a few little attacks as the final skirmishing begins, and Trentin wants to try and join that group up front, but you know what, I think they're going to knit it back together again ahead of this this final sprint. The attacks coming thick and fast. UAE Team Emirates sitting further back than they would like, sitting 10th indeed, and need to do something special. It's Lotto Soudal actually. That's Al Hansen, I think, who's made it in there. One of the riders to kick it off. Geschke tries to put manners on this group, control the pace, control the tempo, down to the final 1,300 meters. This is the first time today we've seen anything like cat and mouse.
Yeah. And it shows that it was so hard. Look at the Koen. Look at his head. He's really going deep, digging deep.
This could be Oliveira who's going to try and wind it up for the final sprint of the day as they go for glory. Valscheid wants to try and take this one, wants to get the 200 points. He's going to make it. And that is Ben Swift getting up for a decent haul of points as well, but we didn't score the first rider across the line. Trentin gets up for some useful points just to confirm, I believe, Mitchell & Scott in second place. There's no doubt about the team that are going to be declared the winners of the Hammer Sprint. They'll have the advantage this afternoon. They'll have a great opportunity to come up with the final, with the victory that they need. And if they win the Hammer Chase, and they'll start, I believe, with a 20-second advantage over their nearest rivals on points, that will be enough for them to be declared the Hammer Series champions of 2018. There's much deliberation still to be done. They're celebrating at the finish line in this group as Philippe Gilbert can be satisfied with a job well done. Well, it's showing pretty close there. I'm not sure it was just as close as all that, but suffice it to say, Quick Step have taken the victory ahead of Mitchell & Scott. Lotto Soudal with a great haul of points at the back end of the day, move up into third ahead of Bora Hansgrohe. UAE Team Emirates move up to fifth. Team Lotto and El Jumbo scoring well in the last couple of sprints and up to sixth, and they're in the finalist group in the Hammer Chase later on. Team Sky R2, Nippo-Vini Fantini, a Pro Continental outfit, embarrassing some of the World Tour teams. They've made it up into the finalist group. The runner-up group, well, that will be made up of, they'll be led away indeed by Trek Factory Segafredo. So Swift by name, Swift by nature, but not quite able to hang on for the top points. It was Valscheid who took those.
Yeah, it's a really strong guy, Walscheid. He's really into this kind of racing, and he's really fast. And Geschke is still here, you see him?
Super job done by Simon Geschke, just to keep the pace high enough to prevent attacks and indeed to prevent the group coming from behind.
Testing,
We're still waiting full confirmation
1, 2.
of the overall standings.
Hello,
and indeed the starting order for the Hammer Chase later on, but it's coming up very shortly. It's pretty hectic. I think we all need to get our breath after that one.
Yeah. And especially the riders, of course, because the chase will be really hard on this circuit. So it's 5 laps, and we've seen how difficult it is already in a group. So now you have to do it in your team time trial group of 5 riders. So it will be hard. Yeah,
thoughts of the Hammer Chase to come later on may have been in the minds of 1 or 2 of these riders on the last lap, as they just try and coast around and get the lactic acid cleared out of their legs ahead of the push to come.
Yeah, and it's really digging deep this afternoon. It will be really hard for everybody.
So Walscheid gets a win of sorts. He takes the top points on offer at the final sprint of the day. Little clenched fist. Absolutely ideal parkour for this big German rider. He's getting better and better at the climbs. Indeed, he scored a nice stage victory in the Tour de Yorkshire in England earlier on this year. He's certainly coming in.
He needs some sugars.
I think they all need some sustenance after that one. The gels will be flying. We'll have a short interval before they get going. Not all the riders, of course, are going back into team time trial action, but I suspect Walscheid is going to be one of the riders. We were handed these start lists, but things could change a little bit.
Normally they do, You leave out the real sprinters and bring in the time trial list. I think, he's there, he's there. Walscheid is there for the time trial as well.
So Walscheid we are expecting to see in the team time trial a little later on. Tom Dumoulin, as you might expect, was declared before the start of the Hammer Sprint, but the teams do have the option of changing things around. There could be 1 or 2 riders that may have picked up an injury. We're not sure if any riders hit the deck. We didn't see it on camera, but it could well be that the split in the peloton that destroyed the hopes of so many riders in there could well have been caused by some sort of a crash. So we'll have to assess the damage there and see whether any riders have problems to solve. Sam Bewley doesn't have too many problems. They're going to start second. He's going to be in their lineup. And
for sure.
Lucas Hamilton, Roger Kluge, Cameron Meyer and Matteo Trentin. You know, Quick Step have the advantage, but that's a frightening lineup behind them.
Yeah, exactly. And Mitchelton Scott, with all these track experience, they're really strong at doing this. The team time trial also is a big discipline on the track, and people like Kluge and Meyer are used to that from being a small kid. So yeah, they're strong at that.
So the Hammer Chase to come a little bit later this afternoon. Much conversation between the top 2 squads. Quick Step, Mitchelton Scott and Matteo Trentin, former teammate indeed of the Quick Step rider Philippe Gilbert that he was talking to. There's your confirmation. Bragging rights go to Quick Step Floors. It's nicely poised though, isn't it? Very finely balanced between themselves. And Mitchelton Scott, with Bora Hansgrohe confirmed as finishing 3rd ahead of Sunweb, Lotto Soudal, Team Sky, Lotto Enel Jumbo and UAE Team Emirates. They are in the finalist group coming up later on. Into the runner-up group, and they'll be first into action in a little while. Trek Segafredo, Nippo Vini Fantini, EF Education First, Israel Cycling Academy, BMC Racing Team, Delco Marseille Provence KTM, and the Hong Kong national team. An interesting experience for many of those riders. They will have enjoyed it. They've got to get themselves ready to go and do some time trial riding a little bit later on.
Yeah, it's good that that a team like Hong Kong is here. It's about developing cycling in areas like here, like Hong Kong and China, and it's good that they get the opportunity to race with the big teams.
Interesting too that we saw a great dynamic between Mitchelton Scott and the Quick Step riders. They seem to enjoy each other's company. It's one of those events where they have an opportunity to chat. Wow, it seems like a long time ago. It's only was less than an hour ago since it all kicked off with EF Education First coming out of the blocks, absolutely storming. Adam Hansen on a charge. Roger Kluge too for Mitchell and Scott, scoring well early on. And the Mitchell and Scott squad took their time about getting into it, but when they did, we got the big guns firing. Cameron Meyer adding some very useful points, but it was Quick-Step were working the scoreboard, putting several riders into every sprint. Devon Inns, Gilbert among their numbers. And the attacks came coming thick and fast. Eventually we had that final sprint and that final selection with Simon Geschke trying to keep it all tight together for the final gallop to the line.